What's up, motherfucker? In the endgame masterclass of today, I want to share with us a game between Magnus Carlsen and Viciana, two former world champions. And I want to start in this specific position, where here Carlsen takes a strange decision but very good. I want that you put this position in the board and stop to think a little bit who to play with white. I play this position against my trainer and I'm not playing the same way. Here in this specific position, the machine says equal with the more or less all the moves. First, when I saw the position, I thought that white is slightly better thanks to the bishop pair and the active rook on b7. Especially the both black rooks are in the initial position and I have the bishop pair. But okay, the extra pawn and the good knight landing on d3 give black the equal. So like I told, the knight is a good knight and is landing to d3. And and if the knight lands on d3, the position is going to be so equal. So for that reason, Carlsen here takes the very good decision of just take the knight. Here he changed the bishop pair advantage for a new difference advantage that is going to be have an active king. It's too common in Carlsen games that he made a very good transformation. In another previous game, we saw that he transformed the position from advantage who have a better knight for a bad bishop to center activity. And now he changed the advantage of the bishop pair for the advantage of have a better king than his opponent who in the game was always useful. In the game against my trainer here I play h4, but after here takes a knight d3, now black is completely fine. And here I should have trade on d3 and just make a draw. After rook b7, pawn d3 and the position is a draw. But I play king g3 and here black is better. So Carlsen decided to take on f4. The computer say that everything is 0-0, but in the practice this move put in some troubles the player with the black pieces. Piece of f4, g4, and now of course the plan was king f3. And here Anand decided to trade the rook, but okay, rook for example, rook f8 was another possibility. Now rook db1, doubling rooks on b7, rook takes, rook d8. When I play against my trainer, I didn't play bishop f4 because I am scared about these things, but just e5 could move. Rook d2 and bishop b4, activating the bishop. And all the time is white who have more pressure, especially thanks to the more active king. Because okay, we see that black have an extra pawn, but the f4 pawn is going to be full, and the white king is better than the black king. That's a very good transformation. The bishop pair for the more active king advantage. Okay, and decides to trade the other rooks. Doesn't matter. The machine says equal with everything, but later we're going to see that black is always in more troubles than white to find the equal. Okay, here, rook a7 was another possibility, uh, but okay. For the moment, everything is more or less similar. Rook b1 is fine. Rook d1, rook d1. Carlsen prefers a little bit the d file than the b file. It's understandable because black taking the b file is not attacking on d4 DLD. So I think that is more important the d file than the b file in the position. Okay, king takes, of course. Rook b2. And here Carlsen, he decides to just defend. Can looks rook c1 like a passive move, but the huge advantage of white in this position is the king. So doesn't matter if the rook now takes a defensive task because in one moment the bishop is going to be moved to e4 there's some e5 or to f5 and the white rook is going to be activated. So for the moment, okay, rook c1 is a passive move, but later the rook and the bishop are going to be active pieces. Okay, Anna tries to develop the king to f8, of course. In an endgame, you always should have your king active. King e5, king e7, king d4, king d6, and now we move by Carlsen e5. Now giving the e4 square for the bishop, and no, the full diagonal in general for the bishop, but especially the e4 square to attack c6, and from e4 the attack c6 and defend d2, and at the same time you free your rook to the activate, and I'll return to e7. And here the problem of bishop before DLD is that after bishop d5, bishop takes, rook d2, the rook endgame is close to be a draw. So for that reason, Carlsen plays more active d4, taking the space in the king side, on defending the g2 pawn, leaving the second round with the g2 pawn for the attack of the rook, bishop d5, and Carlsen is still taking a space in the king side, very good idea, because okay, here the king is in an active square on d5. The bishop is fine here, covering the open the full diagonal, and the rook is just defending the bishop. So now it's time to just improve with the pawns, with d4 and h4, taking space in the king side. Okay, here bishop f3 was stronger and rook a4 was stronger too, more active moves. Instead of that, because of course the rook on a2 is attacking the a4 pawn, who is for the moment defending the bishop, but at the time that you move the bishop, this pawn is going to be falling. Instead of that, Viciaran choose a strange maneuver who is put the king on g7, who is going to suffer of after some g5, g6, rook g1, and some castles on g6, the king is going to suffer. But it's simply that here black should activate the pieces with bishop f3 or just rook h2. But of course, it's so difficult for black to defend this position because it's not clear what is what black plan after g2 after rook a2, and white plan is more clear. He just push the pawn to g5 to create a pass pawn in the king side like Carlsen do. King f8, king c5. Now looks the difference between the queens. Between the kings. Sorry, this king is in the fifth rank and this king is in the first rank. Here's different. King d7, and now Carlsen is still activating his king. Great move, king e6. Looks this king is a fucking beast. Let's see the position. No, 13 moves, no, 12 moves ago. The king was on f2, and now after this transformation, now the king is on d6. So Carlsen makes his full goal when he take on f4. And now it's completely clear that the bishop takes f4 move was good. G5 was another option. Ace takes, example rook b8, rook b1, threatening bishop b4, and now the endgame was better. And king f8, and here g6. F takes and king d6. And now this pawn is going to run until the end, until mate takes down. King d6, rook a2, trying to attack the pawn, but now just has to make his plan g5, ace take, and here Anand makes the decisive mistake of the game. He has his last chance was rook b2, trying to activate the rook because on a2 it was bad place now. g6, pawn sacrifice, f takes, e6, g5, bishop f5, and now Anand have this rook d2 good move, king e7, rook f2, and just follow the bishop all the time. Rook e2, and rook 8, and white is slightly better. But this requires many good defensive moves by Viciana. All the previous moves are only to try to hold the game. Okay, but instead of that, Anand plays rook a3, trying to go for the c pawn, but it's just lost. Anand Carlsen play bishop f5, who is winning because he's just defending c3. For example, g6, rook c3 takes, and e6 is enough to win, but okay, it's not so easy. But I really like bishop f5 because you shouldn't hurry so much sacrificing pawns in the king side, because if black take all your queen side pawn, it's going to be a draw with rook and bishop against a rook. So for a reason, Carlsen should keep the queen side pawns, at least one of both. Rook a4, and now came the pawn sacrifices. g6, pawn takes, and yeah, rook g1. Now white is going to take on g6, and the pawn is so dangerous. Rook a3, threatening the c3 pawn, because of course if black manages to take on c3 and then sacrifice the other bishop for the e pawn, black can hold. If you don't receive checkmate, who is important. Rook g6, king f7, rook f6, king e7. Okay, Carlsen now give the c3 pawn, but because he have in his mind plans of give checkmate, and now the white plan is not push this pawn and give and try to promote, because now if he plays e6, the bishop can just take the pawn and defend because first I prefer rook g3 to avoid checkmate ideas, then take on e6 in one moment. But sorry, but the e6 of course is not the Carlsen idea here. Carlsen can play rook g6 to give checkmate the samurai. You cannot go here because rook c3. And if you go to g, I think that in f8 is just let's checkmate. So because rook h3 is not possible to defend because the bishop is covering h3. So rook b3 here, and here just rook g6, e6, h4, rook king f6, and just checkmate the black king. So very good game of Magnus Carlsen. I want to point again the white king because that's the piece who make Carlsen win the game. Okay, in the I stop on I start the video in the move 22 because now to analyze what was the Magnus Carlsen plan with bishop f4. With bishop f4 he have in mind to give the bishop pair, who always is an advantage in the endgame, but because first the knight is going to be so active on d3, and second because his king is going to be so active after king f3, king f4, and now let's see the white king finally end. Oh, first he lands on d6, and then he lands on f6 with just he land on e7, and then to f6 to just he checkmate to black king. So very good game of Magnus Carlsen, just with the technique of give the bishop pair to activate the king. Always in the enemies are so important to activate the king. So I hope that you learn with this masterclass. I'm going to upload one new each day, always at 10 p.m. So let's still learning. Says bye bye, motherfuckers.